Welcome back, everyone, and this is another episode of Truth is Stranger Than Fiction. I want to start with a couple of non sequiturs. First of all, you'll see here the text, but we're going to get into that in a moment. I have yet to see anyone on YouTube or actual on television uh, media call AOC anything but AOC if she's grinning around and having a just personal chat, or, and that's generally when she's done it herself, or is someone she is very chummy with. 99.9% of what I see, and the 0.1% being those who are just private citizens on social media, they all call her Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Ocasio-Cortez. You can see here that she is referred to as Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. In proper parlance, there are two ways to address a member of the House of Representatives: Miss, Mrs. for the women, or Mr. for the men, or Representative. They're equal in their correctness of use. This came up not long ago when someone officially referred to Nancy Pelosi as Ms. Pelosi, and people went insane. The actual title is Mr. or Ms. and their last name, although there is the now common parlance of using representative. Both are correct. Only the Senate is officially designated as being referred to as senator and their last name. But that's a conversation for another day. There were some very interesting numbers that came out of the Senate vote on Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. The major one is that not a single senator supported it. Zip. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Not her proud original co-sponsor, Senator Ed Markey, Democrat from Massachusetts. Not even the presidential hopefuls that hopped on the bandwagon to co-sponsor it and have been singing the praises of the innovative and visionary resolution. Senator Cory Spartacus Booker, Democrat, New Jersey, known for his speeches that go on just a wee bit too far, parroted back Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's claim that fighting climate change is our World War II. And he went further: it's like putting a man on the moon. Yet he did not vote for it. Senator Kamala Harris, Democrat of California, who has backed the Green New Deal resolution in her campaign while cackling about the pot that apparently allowed her to travel through time, but she didn't vote for it either. In long, rambling speech, Senator Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, Democrat of Massachusetts, also compared the Green New Deal's vision to the moon landing. Still, she didn't vote for it. Senator Bernie Sanders, Democrat of Vermont, was a proud original co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, but not proud enough to vote for it, apparently. Freshman Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat of New York, was furious that a resolution she proposed and was co-sponsored by multiple senators that are now running for a chance to become the President of the United States was being put to a vote in the Senate. Ocasio-Cortez defended herself after the defeat and argued she encouraged the Democrat senators to vote present instead of in the affirmative. I encouraged them to vote present along with others. McConnell tried to rush the Green New Deal straight to the floor without a hearing. The real question we should be asking: why does the Senate GOP refuse to hold any major hearings on climate change? The self-described socialist explained in a tweet responding to the lack of Democratic votes. The GOP's climate denying is costing us lives and destroying communities. Iowa, Nebraska, and many in the Midwest are catastrophically flooded right now in one of the first major climate change disasters of 2019. A Green New Deal urges us to pursue a plan on the scale of the problem. The absolute brilliance of Senate Majority Leader Cocaine Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, was to get these senators to actually put on record their support for a far-left activist document ahead of the 2020 presidential election. Democrats who lost some seats in the Senate and are hoping to win back the White House, which would end the reign of terror that is Trumpian conservatism, decided to blame the GOP for making them take a stand one way or the other on the Green New Deal. What's the issue with rushing the vote on the Green New Deal? According to the New Yorker, Ocasio-Cortez's staff came up with the resolution in the span of a single weekend. Democratic Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, the principal sponsor of the legislation in the Senate, called McConnell's move a sham. He said Tuesday before the vote that the GOP leader wants to sabotage calls for climate action, and Ocasio-Cortez slammed the majority leader for holding a bluff vote. The GOP's whole game of wasting votes in Congress to target others on the record for the leg they have no intent to pass is a disgrace. Stop wasting the American people's time and learn to govern. Our jobs aren't for campaigning, and that's exactly what these bluff votes are for, she wrote on Twitter on Friday. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer called the vote a political stunt. A political stunt to respond to a political stunt is fair game in my books, and I do agree here. Ocasio-Cortez isn't very happy, and she really doesn't like it when the GND is criticized. Watch her respond to Representative Sean Duffy, Republican of Wisconsin, claim that the Green New Deal is elitist. Rep. Duffy is right, though. She also vented her rage on Twitter, presumably using her cell phone composed of environment-destroying rare earth elements. I have to admit that this video here of Mike Lee using memes was rather inspired. I'm pretty sure that the Aquaman poster didn't cost $93 trillion, though. That Reagan riding a raptor art is something I want to own and hang in my office. You and me both, buddy. But Ocasio-Cortez is not done. Like many other women and working people, I occasionally suffer from imposter syndrome. Those small moments, especially on hard days, where you wonder if the haters are right. But then they do things like this to clear it right up. If this guy can be senator, you can do anything. Look in a mirror, Miss Ocasio-Cortez. AOC claims she told senators not to vote for it, but instead to vote present. Good plan. There's no better way to show support for your policy positions than to have your colleagues not vote to support them. This entire thing, honestly, is just a stunt by Ocasio-Cortez. And I don't know that she knows she's being played. We have people running on climate change, like Kamala Harris and like Elizabeth Warren, who voted present. I don't think you know how the Senate works, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez. Your bill was defeated. It must now be reintroduced. And if you want to know what your job is not to endlessly blather on, producing more CO2 than a cow fart. Your job is to introduce legislation and then to ultimately vote on said legislation. You knew in that weekend of planning that the Senate controls the Senate, or the GOP controls the Senate. My apologies. You knew that it would never pass, yet you introduced it, and Senator Markey and Senator Sanders and others co-sponsored it. They also knew it would never pass. Because this Green New Deal, as you call it, costs so much green, we cannot afford it. Now, before any of you say I am a climate change denier, I am not. I am a historian. Climate changes. If you look far enough back, you'll find what was an Eden, a planet lush and green and teeming with life, and then an ice age, and then a slow thaw, and then a planet that was lush and green and once again beginning to teem with life. The climate is cyclical. But we get movies like The Day After Tomorrow that just fantasize about the end of the world with scenes of people trying to exit a helicopter and freezing so fast the food in their stomach is still considered food. Now, I'm not a meteorologist. I'm not going to theorize on whether a superstorm like that could do that. I know that we have found basically cryogenically frozen animals from prehistoric times with supposedly food still in their stomach. But until we can actually go back and find out what happened, all we can do is theorize. What I deny is that climate change is man-made, because we've had an ice age, and we've had horribly hot summers and horribly cold winters, and mild as all get-out summers and mild as all get-out winters. I myself can remember going swimming in an outdoor, non-heated swimming pool on Christmas vacation. I can remember it being warm enough in January to wear shorts, flip-flops, and a t-shirt back to school. I can also remember days in July where it was actually in the 60s. Now, granted, yes, I live in Texas, where one of the state mottos is, don't let the weather wait 5 minutes. But for something to happen where it's warm enough in December to swim, or cold enough in July to need a light jacket, yeah, that happens. But it's not man-made. It is cyclical. If you want to talk about greenhouse gases, look at the sheer volume of life in prehistoric times. Animals that would tower over homes, they're going to have produced a lot of CO2 naturally. But, of course, Miss Ocasio-Cortez has a plan for that too. Stop having children. So her plan to save the species and the planet is to stop propagating the species. It jumps all over the place. Now, I've said this before in, I believe it was a live video on Twitter, but I'll say it again. Miss Ocasio-Cortez is just barely out of what I would call childhood. She's only 29. Yet we hear just rambling speeches telling us how how ignorant we are because we disagree with her. Then we see the immaturity come out in her physical mannerisms. We see her tear up when someone criticizes her. And I will admit, yes, there are people on both sides of the political divide that have carried it too far. And I do not like seeing anyone cry, male, female, young, or old. But I'm sorry, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, you have thrust yourself into the center stage spotlight of American politics. It requires a very thick skin. One that if you are to continue in that nine-ring circus that is the U.S. government, you're going to have to develop rather quickly. Part of that is realizing when you tell people they can't have burgers. When you go out in public as a very public figure who is going to be followed around and photographed, you might not want to be photographed with someone eating a burger. When you tell people that they're evil for not giving up air travel or their car, you may not want to ride around in an SUV and gallivant all over the country in an airplane. When you tell people that they're evil, you may not want to do what you say they're evil for doing. I've called it many things, but it all boils down to a mindset of rules for thee, not for me. And it is the reason I wish that reading 1984, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, and Animal Farm was required before you could take office, just so you could be asked, what do you think of those books? And anyone who says, oh, that's a great plan, is kicked out. Look at 1984. Orwellian control is what that gave us the term of. It's a society where children are brainwashed from the earliest age possible to inform on their parents. One could almost say it is an eco-terrorist or an environmentally sound way of ensuring the species, because those parents that are informed on are promptly killed when they are promptly removed from society as problem people. So population is controlled, and that is done by letting people breed, then removing the parents from the entire world stage and raising the children as the government sees fit. Look at Animal Farm. A very much out there story, but a very cautionary tale, where when the animals are left to run the farm, the pigs step up to control things, and for a time all is well. Everyone works, everyone eats, everyone has a place to sleep. But then the rule of no one stays in the house is amended to, but the pigs can. The rule of no one will wear human clothing is amended, but the pigs can. No one will eat of the human food, but the pigs can. No one will sleep in the human beds, but the pigs can. Ultimately ending in, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Do you honestly think if the Green New Deal passed and all of a sudden air travel and private ownership of internal combustion engines, or even electric cars, when it is admitted that the batteries to run them are so environmentally unsound as to be more horrible than the internal combustion engine, when all of us are told we must give all of these things up, live by candlelight if we can't afford solar, and eat only what we can grow and eat raw because we can't afford to cook it, do you believe the 535 members of Congress will be living that way? Of course not. They must be allowed to travel because they have to. But that means they have to have airplanes. And they have to have cars, because they can't be bothered to walk or ride a bicycle. It takes too long. We will all be told all of us are equal, but some are more equal than others. And sadly, This young lady will be one of them championing that cause. She has elevated herself from a bartender in Brooklyn to a member of Congress. And by those rules now, her student loans, which paid for a useless degree in economics, never have to be repaid. She jumped from likely a low four-figure, maybe five-figure job to a good six-figure job, one that allows her to maintain a lavish apartment in Washington, D.C., as well as a rent-controlled apartment in Brooklyn, which, according to her neighbors, she never visits. We literally watch these days as people tell us that Orwell is to be obeyed. Orwell, Huxley, and Bradbury are spinning in their graves. If we don't turn the tide now, we never will. We will see the country fall to rancor and civil war. We will see the military walk off their post when told you must subjugate the U.S. citizenry in clear violation of the Constitution, which you swore to uphold and defend. And from there, it really gets bad. But I've talked long enough on this one. Make sure to let me know your thoughts. Keep it civil, keep it classy. We only learn when we actually debate, not just argue. Also, make sure to leave a like on this. Hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with me. You will find a link in the description, or at least the text. I'm not sure if it actually works as a link, to send me content suggestions. As always, I am working on what amounts to a syllabus to teach freshman, then sophomore, then junior, then senior level secondary social studies. This will include predominantly government, economics, and history, although it will also include a smattering of geography, psychology, sociology, and social psychology, all of the social sciences which I studied for many years to be able to teach. I'm doing this because I'm watching social studies be taught very badly in public schools. And that is not something that, as an educator at heart, I can sit idly by and watch. Yes, it's taking me some time to build a syllabus because, unfortunately, I have now been out of college for about 10 years. And I don't have access to the materials I did there. But it is coming. And it will be what actually happened, not the Americans declared independence because they wanted to own slaves and never pay taxes again. Simply not the truth. What will be told will be the truth. Some of it upsetting, other parts not. But until next time, everyone have a wonderful day.